You know, we've had some spectacular fishing this summer. It's going to get even better this fall. But one thing that is changing my plans a little bit, you notice that tinge in the air the past few days, the drop in the temperature, sort of puts me in the mood for autumn, for fall. September 17th, we're going to open a new era of pheasant hunting in Michigan, the ringneck pheasant, once the king of game birds. We ended the put-take program last year. We got some historic tape on that. And that, my friends, puts me in the mood for fall pheasant hunting. I think it's going to put you in the mood, too.
We have one tired dog right here. Old Spirit has been out getting some birds for us here. We're put-take hunting with Pete Squibb of the DNR, Al Massey, Bob Garner. We had quite a morning. The put-take system, which I guess is going to be phased out this year, Pete?
That's right. Legislatively, it's gone as of November 14th.
Well, this film is going to be historic when you look at it next year, but this year, it's still in operation. We went put-take pheasant hunting, got a great pheasant recipe coming up, too. You're going to see all about it in the next few minutes, so stay tuned. It's Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties, we'll look around again at all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan.
Well, we had quite a morning's hunt. We got 1, 2, 3 roosters. You got any more there, Bob?
Another one here.
Enough for 4 of us. That's 6 birds. 6 roosters are the last of the put-take. Kind of too bad? You sorry about that? I know a lot of hunters are. Or do you think there are better things coming up for hunters?
I think there's going to be some better things coming up. It's unfortunate to see the put-take go, especially the way it has. There's an awful interest in it. Unfortunately, the people that are partaking in it right now have not expressed an interest in maintaining the program effectively in the past. And in this time of budget cuts, this is one of the programs that's looked at very closely.
Whoa.
Huh.
Good dog.
Get it over here?
Yep.
There's a group right now, the Mid-Michigan Bird Hunters Association, that has been proposing, and we've been looking at it, and if they had the support and the number of people, it would probably fly, that they pay a set amount for a permit to hunt put-take birds, say $25.
Mm-hmm.
And then each bird then, or each seal, would then also cost, say, $2 or $2.50 or $3 or some fee in there. And between those two costs, that would pick up the bulk of it.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the full program.
Whoa. Okay, Spirit. Okay, Baxter. Oh, there. Go ahead. Oh. Good job. Look.
Al, you've done a lot of put-take hunting over the years, right?
Yes, I
With your
have.
dog? How
Yes,
come?
I have. It's a good opportunity to hunt for a few hours in the morning or in the afternoon, take the family out, get some exercise, give the dog some training. I have enjoyed the program.
Well, as the pheasant numbers dropped in the past 10, 15 years, were you on the brink of hanging it up on pheasant hunting and going to grouse or waterfowl, or?
Well, I am a duck hunter, but I did slow down on pheasant hunting efforts for wild birds.
It just wasn't productive for you?
It just
wasn't productive enough?
You had to spend all day, all weekend to possibly get 1 or 2 birds. And it was very hard hunting, and the birds simply weren't there.
So what are you going to do now that they're going to fold up put-take?
Well, I hope the department's got some better plans on the drawing board, and we'll see what they come up with. In the interim, we'll spend some time hunting grouse and woodcock and try to make the best of it.
New plans on the drawing board, Pete?
Yeah, there are, Fred. Quite a few, as a matter of fact. Most of our plans are going to have some long-range effects. We may not notice it here in the next 2 or 3 years. The effects it's going to have specifically on pheasants.
Now, is this mainly habitat work you're going to do?
It's going to be habitat work, Primarily on private lands. Right now, you know, southern Michigan is made up of 98% of the land here is privately owned. 2% is game areas and public land. If you're going to affect populations of wildlife, the only way you can do it is to work on the private lands. And we have not done that as a division or a department for quite some time.
So we're going to try to bring back the natural population.
We're going to look at pheasants and see if we can better determine why pheasants have gone the way they have, and try to make every effort possible to remedy that situation if we can.
Okay, every pheasant hunter has his own theory on what he's heard. Start with you, Al. What happened to the pheasants? What happened to the population? Why did they plummet in the past 20 years?
I think it had a lot to do with habitat type changing, cleaner farming, pesticides, those types of things.
Bob Garner, what's your theory?
Well, we're simply not seeing the small 10-acre parcels of farming with all the brushy fence rows and that sort of thing. But also there is one little theory that keeps hanging on when I think of pheasants, and that is that naturally when any species is introduced, be it anything, Fred, and it fills a niche.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
After a while, that species, you know, species builds to a large population, and after a while comes plummeting down for some unexplainable reason, and it's a biological phenomenon. Well, Pete can tell you more about it, but we may be seeing that. And why? How to explain it? Nobody can, and so I'm not even going to take a crack at it.
I think also the genetics have changed on the pheasants. There have been a lot of pheasants shot in this state. We've shot the ones that stay in close and flush. The survivors have gone to the marshes, turned to running more than flying, and I think the hunting pressure has been something that's had somewhat of an impact on it.
Right. There are some people that feel that is could be one of the factors.
But now you're the biologist at the DNR,
right,
who's in charge of pheasants.
Right.
Okay, so let's get the answer. What happened to the pheasants?
I think
think
any and yeah, that's right. Any and all of the above. If we really knew what the factors were and we could control them, we would be knee-deep in pheasants again across the country, because we're not the only state that this has happened in. It's happened in every state that there have been pheasants in. The pheasants have built to a high, decreased, leveled off, and now there are some highs and lows in the populations, but generally they are a downward skid.
All right, well, you know, looking at these birds, the ring-necked pheasant is not a bird like a grouse. It's natural and native to the United States.
Right. These birds are from Asia, and originally the birds were introduced. They were game farm stock, and this is one of the things that sometimes we do forget too. The birds that were released in the United States were not wild birds from China. Only in a couple small instances were they. They were game farm birds from European game farms that had these birds out of the wild for many generations. And they had selected these birds for this white ring right here.
Oh, on the neck.
And because the plumage was useful back at the turn of the century, you know, with the pretty hats that all the women had and stuff. And these birds were selected for plumage and for their ability to be tamed.
And of course now one of the big values of birds like this to a lot of hunters is to eat them.
And eating them is a prize in all outdoors. We're going to be coming up with a great recipe by Kay Ritchie. You know, hunting for things to eat is not limited to birds and game. Up in the UP, the berry crops, the blueberries and the raspberries have passed their peak. Houghton Lake, Hubbard Lake, walleye, panfish, bass. It's been great. In fact, let me show you how great it is last year at this time in our trophy report. The end of August should be good this year, because last year on this day, August 23rd, Pete Omer from Davisburg was fishing in the evening in Cheese Lake, Oakland County, when he landed a 6.5-pound largemouth on a Clio. And a year ago this Saturday, Lynn Smith from Millington took a 24.5-pound northern muskie from Murphy Lake in Tuscola County, also in the evening, casting a lure. Now, salmon are always in the news at this time of year, and we especially like to see those big ones over 30 pounds, like this 32-pounder that was taken on an Eppinger Flutter King at noon off St. Joe last August 28th. Tim Simcoe from Mishawaka, Indiana, comes close to being our Master Angler of the Week, but let's change the pace a little bit and give that title to a young fellow who caught a dandy bull bluegill this coming weekend, last August. His name is John Vanderwerf from Sparta. He was fishing Round Lake in Kent County in the evening with a cricket. His prize is a 1-pound, 3-ounce, 11-inch bluegill, and the title that goes with it is our Michigan Outdoors Master Angler of the Week. The waterfowl regulations, pheasant regulations, even deer regulations, all of our hunting regulations are set up in order to manage the harvest of the various species. In fact, including deer. There's a problem in some areas where there's large tracts of state land and a lot of hunters congregate there. They take a lot of deer, but on the neighboring private lands, not as many deer are taken that really need to be. So the DNR has instituted a landowner preference program to give landowners a chance to get antlerless permits to harvest more deer in these areas. And we have a question in our mailbag about what it takes to qualify.
Right, and it's from Joe Nitkowski of Dearborn. He says, please settle an argument. I say if you own property and do not live on it, you are not eligible to apply for a landowner's permit. Am I right?
Does he have to be a resident, Bob Garner?
No, he doesn't. And as a matter of fact, he doesn't even have to own the land. He can either rent it or lease it. So long as he's got a legal rental agreement or a legal lease, he has the ability to apply in those areas that have landowner preference permits.
It's possible to rent land from a buddy for $1 and qualify.
So long as it's a legal lease.
As long as it's legal, and that can be done. That's a little loophole.
We got another question here from Jeff Bates of Corunna. I'm only 15 years old and I'm just getting into fishing. I'm wondering if I would need a trout stamp to fish on public trout waters.
No, you don't. Not until you're 17 years old. But you know, if you want to contribute to the Game and Fish Protection Fund, really the only way to do it is to buy a license anyway or buy a trout stamp. That way, you'll be contributing money to go to the betterment of your fishing in the future. Not a bad idea. In fact, do we have water to fish in here in Michigan? Let's look at our outdoor quiz. See what you know about the Great Lakes. What percentage of all fresh water in North America is contained in the Great Lakes? Is it 10%, half, or 80%? What do you think? Well, the answer is the Great Lakes contain half of all the fresh water found in North America, and Michigan owns 64% of the upper Great Lakes. A lot of fish in there to catch, but you know, right now we are going to go to a recipe. Kay Ritchie stuffed a pheasant last year on the show, plucked it and stuffed it. It was the best recipe that I've ever tasted for pheasant. Let's check that out right now. To prepare the stuffing, what did you do? You have some of it already made.
We sauteed onions and celery in butter, and we added a can of cream of chicken soup.
Okay, did you add any milk with that?
No, but we're going to add a little bit of water.
Okay. Is the stove on? Are we cooking?
No, we're not going to cook now. We're just going to put it together.
Oh, okay.
We've already sauteed this.
So there's a can of cream of chicken soup. How many onions?
I would say that there's probably about a quarter of a cup of onion and a half a cup of celery with the leaves.
Okay. Quarter cup and a half a cup. A little bit of water. Now what?
Okay, now we're going to add the wild rice. We've already prepared this. It's all done.
Is this did it come from a box?
Yeah, this is just...
Somebody's uncle?
That's who it is.
So we have how much is that? A couple cups?
Yeah, I think that it's probably at least 2 cups. Maybe it's even more than that. I don't really know.
There's plenty of wild rice right there. Is that it? No seasonings?
No. Our seasoning is already in our herb dressing here, our stuffing, and we're going to now add that, and then we're going to...
Seasoned stuffing. This is about 8 ounces. How much do we put in there?
We're going to put the whole thing in, Fred. We're going to have lots of dressing.
Are you ready? There it goes.
Okay.
Herb seasoned stuffing, steamed chicken soup, quarter cup of onions, half a cup of celery with the leaves chopped up, a little bit of water, saute the onions and celery, stir it up. Okay, is that about...
That's about all there is to it. Just make sure that you have enough butter to saute, that you're going to have plenty of moisture, and we're going to have a little bit
How about
more
the bird here?
water.
Do we salt and pepper it on the inside?
Yeah,
or-
let's salt it quite heavily.
Quite heavily. Okay, I think
Yeah,
we can take
get it
care of
right
that.
down there in the cavity, good.
All right. Right down in there. Tell me when to stop.
Well, don't overdo it.
Okay, there we go. Heavily salted in the cavity of the pheasant. Now we're going to stuff the bird.
Now we're going to do it.
How do you go about this? Should I just hold it like a bag here and you dump it in?
Yep, that'll be real good. This is a two-man job.
The stuffing in this pheasant is delectable in its own right, all the ingredients, the spices, the herb stuffing, but it provides a real function on wildfowl. Now this pheasant, you'll notice, is quite fat, and it's been plucked. It's a game farm bird, which is why it's so fat. Birds in the wild would not be nearly as fat as this, but the stuffing from the inside puts a lot of moisture inside the bird. And that's a problem with wildfowl. And the fat and the skin on the outside moisturizes it, and we set the pheasant on the stuffing that is left, and we're going to pop it in the oven at 350 degrees, salt it on the top just before putting it in the oven. But that's a scrumptious recipe. We're going to have a taste of it in just a moment, but first, let's hear the outdoor calendar from Ed Groves.
And here it is, your stuffed pheasant.
Right.
Okay, Richie. And this has been in the oven for, what, an hour?
Approximately an hour, Fred. The way that I test for doneness is I pierce the breast, and then I push, and the juices that come out as you press should just slightly be pink.
That indicates what?
That indicates that it's just about done perfect.
Oh, okay. How about slicing into it? I can't wait to taste it.
All right.
Recipe for stuffed pheasant.
How about a little taste of the wild rice dressing with it?
Boy, is that scrumptious. That is great, but that meat is just done to perfection. Boy, I could sit here and eat this all day.
You know, guys, a couple weekends ago at the Bowhunters Rendezvous, my shooting was so good, I won this knife on the bionic duck. I
Nice
shot it
job.
3 times in a row.
Nice job.
No accounting for luck.
I know it, I know it. We'll see how lucky I'm going to be this weekend. I hope you're lucky if you get out fishing, but join us next week right here on Michigan Outdoors.
What would we have done without Spirit this morning? Very well?
We would have got a lot more exercise. Those birds were running on us, and those that would settle down held awful tight. And
We would have walked right by him.
we could have walked by most of those birds, and we would have been lucky to get a couple instead of 6.
Without a dog, you probably wouldn't have been pheasant hunting at all in the past 10 years in the state.
No, I wouldn't. A lot of the enjoyment of being out there is just having the dog and watching the dog.
What do you enjoy about it? What's the biggest thrill to you?
Well, the dog has a lot of natural instincts, and this is an opportunity to see the dog working its instincts against the bird's instincts, and the two of them coming together to see who can outwit who.
Production of Michigan Outdoors is made possible in part by the Stroh Brewery Company, a family-owned brewery, and its distributors throughout Michigan.